How do you explain to someone what a hallucination feels like, or what it's like to grow up in an abusive home? How do you do that without totally freaking out and alienating the audience, changing the atmosphere of the room to make it really dark and somber? So I had to like get good at sharing, bringing someone into the story enough to relate to me, but not so much that now they're scarred.
This is Breaking Through the Noise, practical strategies from emerging thought leaders who've actually broken through the noise on their terms. I'm your host, Catherine Jelinek. Let's get real and let's get into it.
Hello, everyone. It's Catherine Jelinek. So today I am so excited to get to be with Johnny Crowder. Johnny is the founder and CEO of Cope Notes and a touring keynote speaker and musician. Johnny, thank you so much for being here today with us.
Yeah, I love your smile and energy. It's contagious. Like right when you started, it was like huge smile. I love that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Well, let's talk about the part of you that has been contagious. You've got a why that people can feel from thousands of feet away from you, I feel like. So let's talk about that and where that spark originated.
The why? The spark of the why?
Yeah, like your purpose, like the thing you're here doing, and where that began.
My mission, like my life mission statement, is I want to make stuff that helps people feel better. So there's three parts of it. I want to make stuff. It's like I'm not interested in selling. I want to create something. So that's part of the juice for me. I want it to help somebody. So I want it to make a difference. So I don't just want to make it just to create. I want it to make a difference. And then I want people to feel better because they interacted with it. So there's three main components of that. And I guess if you like psychologize that, you try to like pick it apart, you're like, okay, why does someone want to make something? Maybe because they're trying to solve for not feeling understood and they want to express themselves because maybe they have difficulty expressing themselves in other ways. So maybe art was that for me, like creativity was that for me. Maybe it's like an empowerment thing, like this didn't exist and then it did, like a song didn't exist and then I wrote it and I brought it to life. So maybe there's like an element of empowerment there. Wanting it to help people is literally because I needed help my whole life, and wanting people to feel better was because I felt crappy. So like I think it's pretty simple to trace that desire, like make stuff that helps people feel better, back to deficits that were in my own life. And then understanding that if I'm feeling like this, especially as a kid, I remember thinking like there was one moment that made me realize I wasn't the only person experiencing this. I was in a psychology class in high school and I read the statistic. It might be different now, but I read the statistic that 1% of Americans live with schizophrenia. And I had been diagnosed with schizophrenia. And I thought I was like such an outlier. And then I was like, 1%? That's so many people. That's like 3 million people, millions of people just in this country. And it showed me like, oh, dude, if you're feeling like this, you're surrounded by other people who, statistically speaking, there's people in your grade right here that you've interacted with that you just don't know are also dealing with that. So it opened my eyes to like, if I'm feeling a type of pain, odds are pretty good that a bunch of other people are feeling that. And it like lit a fire under me to do something about it.
Yeah. I mean, that's saying something when you hear a statistic that something is 1% and it makes you feel less alone. Like that's a bit of an eye opener for me to hear that regarding like the insight of like how alone you felt at the time. But you're right. I mean, like that's 1% schizophrenia. And then how many of us have, I mean, like I went through OCD in starting in 5th grade. Like, I can relate to so much of what I've heard when I've listened to your TED Talks and your stuff online. So we all feel alone and in our heads and don't realize that like every single person walking down the street has got their own version. Yeah. Essentially.
And then when you map it out to like, even if people are listening to this and they go, I don't live with mental illness, it's like, that's okay. Everybody experiences grief. Like everyone loses friends and family members. One of the hardest things you'll ever go through in your whole life. everyone experiences like massive disappointment. Like I put all my chips on this offer for this house, or I moved to Arizona to start a new job and then the company shut down. Like all of us face these huge, difficult things. And it's just so much more part and parcel of the human experience than I thought when I was a kid. I thought that I was being singled out and that there was something wrong with me. As I got older, I'm like, why is nobody talking about like life's general difficulty? Like this is hard. We face hard stuff, and it made me want to like provide support for people who were experiencing that. Once I realized, like, if you think you're the only one hurting, you just want to help you. Please somebody help me. Please somebody help me.
Mm-hmm.
And once you realize other people are hurting, you're like, please somebody help us. Somebody help us, me and all these other people. And then I'm like, well, if I can do something to help me and somebody else, I can't think of a better way to spend my time.
Yeah, you used it. That's cool. So let's talk about the fact that getting to learn more about you, you have done TEDx talks twice. You are repeatedly booked as a keynote speaker at conferences and trainings with really big names. And you have a message, this something to share, this natural connection to us, this thing that you had. How did you break from like having this message and this spark and this something that you wanted to share and help others know that they were not alone and that there was something offered and that they could resonate and feel like, I see my journey in this guy. If he can do it, so can I. How did you take that message and that spark and actually break out into the place that you are today, where people are hearing you, receiving you, you're regularly on a big stage?
So there's a mental change and there's like a practical thing that I did. So the
Yeah.
mental, I'll start with the mental because it was a bigger lift. The mental change that I had to go through was I had to get over this idea that uh, I was going to be judged for sharing. So when I was younger, I did comedy and I felt safe sharing through comedy because there's like a barrier. Like, oh, but I'm using humor as like a deflection. And then with music, when I was writing songs when I was a teenager, it was all very metaphorical and it was like very indirect and artistic. And it was like, oh, I didn't actually have to tell people how I felt. I could write a song that symbolized how I felt. And I felt safety being insulated from the like rawness of what I was going through. And then I think as I continued writing, I was like, I'm hiding. Like I'm using art to hide behind so that I can share a version of the truth that I feel might be more palatable for other people and maybe not so embarrassing for me to share. Like instead of
Mm.
writing a song about me being abused, I would maybe write a song about, and I actually did this, about a dove being strangled by a snake. And I was like, oh, but that's my way of sharing because I don't want to tell people I was abused. Like, what are people going to think of me? They're going to think I'm weak. I'm going to think I'm weak. Like, I don't want to share
Mm.
that. So instead, I'll write this like sort of beautiful artistic metaphor, this imagery. And I think in my early 20s, I realized like I'm hiding, like I'm afraid of
Oh, you
telling.
realize that then, huh? Because I
Totally.
think lots of us further, older than 20s haven't totally come to that yet.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. We were playing a couple hundred shows a year, so every single night I get on stage and I share,
Mm.
and I'm sharing, but I'm not. I'm like sharing this much, but I'm not sharing the whole thing. And I slowly, over time, like gradually started realizing, like, I remember I wrote this song about being sexually abused, and this was like 2015 or 2016 or something. And I was like, I shouldn't put this out. This is like, I was looking at the lyrics. I'm like, this is really revealing. And I didn't even know I felt like this because I'm so used to writing metaphorically that this is like really raw and honest in it. And then I was like, but I feel so much better now that I wrote this, and this will probably resonate with so many people. So part of it was like the mental lift was trying not to hide as much, and just being more comfortable telling the whole truth and not the version of the truth that protected me from shame or embarrassment or whatever. And then the
Hmm.
practical thing that I did was everybody asked me like, how do you get started as a speaker? Please don't do it like I did it. There's got to be a more efficient way. But all I did was I hounded people asking to speak at their events.
Hmm.
So I spoke for free for the first 7 years of
Oh,
my speaking
wow.
career.
That's several years. Yeah.
So I was like, I'll drive there for free. I'll pay my own way if I have to fly. I will. And I was like working at Chipotle or like a warehouse or whatever. So I would like literally
Yeah.
save up money to drive across the state to speak for 10 minutes at some event for free and try to meet as many people I was there and just get reps. So for
Yep.
years and years, I would just ask, is there room in your agenda for someone to come speak? And I love writing. So I would like write talks and then try them out and write talks and try them out. So it was like infinity reps. So by the time I actually got paid to speak, I was really good, but it's because I had done like 1,000 practice rounds.
Okay. There's like several things hitting here. First of all, like, how did you know at this age? Because I'm guessing it was when you were in your 20s, given that it was 7 years of going unpaid.
Dude,
Um,
I gave my first talk, I spoke publicly for the first time when I was 18.
well done, you. Okay.
You can see why nobody would
So,
want to pay me to come speak. I was 18 years old. I mean, I still had a bunch of pimples and like had no idea. I like had no experience doing it. So I think early on it was my first talk was probably for like 8 people, like in a support group setting. It was like people from different support groups. So and then I did like elementary schools and I'd talk to like fourth and fifth graders about their mental health and stuff. And I talked to middle schoolers. So it was like, it's not like I just broke out onto a stage. It's like lots of them were like, I'd speak at
it wasn't
hardcore
even a
shows.
stage at first.
No, literally, I spoke at like hardcore and metal shows between bands. Like while they were changing out the gear on stage, I'd get up with a microphone and start sharing. Like it was scrappy.
Yeah, you started inventing like reasons and spaces that people could listen, you know?
Yes.
Right. No, that makes sense. Any point in that trajectory where you feel like you tweaked a little something and more doors opened or payment came or but because I get the message of it's just like resilience, keep going, keep knocking down the doors, start small, start free, start where it's not even a stage. Like
Yeah.
I love that. That's very real. Is there any moment where something got more effective?
Um, Two things. One was I started doing more storytelling on stage.
Okay.
So I started rather than telling people, here's what you should know. Instead, I was like, here's exactly where I was. Here's exactly how I felt. And you can like help the person visualize. Like, I've heard keynotes from people sharing experiences that I've never had. And
Yeah.
I can, even though I've never been through that, I'm so right there with them and I can still learn what they're learning in that moment. So in improv, you hear sometimes people say, take them with you, like take the audience with you, bring them with you. And I
Yeah.
think I started getting better at doing that because what I've been through is really difficult. Like, how do you explain to someone what a hallucination feels like, or what it's like to grow up in an abusive home? How do you do that without totally freaking out and alienating the audience, changing the atmosphere of the room to make it really dark and somber? So I had to like get good at sharing in bringing someone into the story enough to relate to me, but not so much that now they're scarred. And then the rest of the day or the talk or the event, they feel like this heaviness. So I had
Yeah.
to figure
I
out
love
how to
that.
share I'm going to answer this more succinctly. I had to figure out how to share constructively. So I do believe that if you share too much or too much of the wrong information, it can have a negative impact on your audience. Um,
Hmm.
and if you share too little, you don't have an impact on the audience because you're like holding back too much. So it's like, how do I share just enough about my difficulties to get buy-in and contextualize what I'm preaching on stage,
Hmm.
without sharing so much that now I've triggered 2,000 people and they're going to go through the rest of the conference kind of shook up. Like learning how to thread that needle. You only get good at that with reps. Like I'd tell a story and then I'd see in body language the audience kind of recoil, and I'm like, oh crap.
Oh,
Like
ah,
I need to tweak that, you know?
okay. Yeah. Wow, though. I mean, this learning that you started with and sharing with us, that you had to like, drop the veil, get really real, like share the truth. And then it's not that you're editing that and saying, don't share the truth. It's that it reminds me of what I've heard from people who work in nonprofits and they have to learn how to promote properly. You can't scare them with the fact that this is so hard and unsolvable. You have
Yeah.
to actually sell hope, or else no one's going to give you money. And it reminds me of that, where like you need to tell them the total truth and then share the constructive, like you said, like the way forward, the silver lining, the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, it's something that I feel that I've gotten good at, but it's only by
Mm.
virtue of having repeatedly failed in front of all sorts of different audiences where like I'm telling a story and I'm like trying to find it's the same as if you ever meet a really good cook
Mm.
and you're like, "Well, how do you know when to flip the fish?" And they're like, "Well, when it's ready to flip." Like you can just I don't know, I've cooked fish 100 times and I can tell, it's just time. And I think that's how I got with speaking, where it's like certain audiences you can go much deeper and certain audiences you don't. So literally, if you ever saw my talk outlines, I have alternates. It's all bullet points, and then I
Mm.
have like story A or story B or point A or point B, and I can kind of smell in like my intro where the audience is leaning, and then I can like divert my talk in real time, like build detours based on what I see the audience responding to. So it's a like the fish tells you when to flip it. And in the same way, the audience tells you how deep to go and what stories to share if you listen.
Oh, I just love that. I believe that you can feel it. Like when you're in a room, you can always feel the temperature, and you being having the background you have. I mean, you're obviously a person who senses your environment around you and feels it,
Hmm.
which something that has been something that's probably led to a lot of pain is also a superpower now. When you
Yeah.
can stand there on stage and you're feeling the room and kind of when they're ready to take certain journeys with you. But that is an expert skill level. I can hear and tell that it's like you can only do that after you've done it a few times and done it wrong. But
Yeah.
that's really cool. That's really cool. Okay, so any quick tips too on like how you opened the TEDx store twice?
Yeah, dude. Okay, here's like the secret that nobody wants you to know about
I
TED
want to
Talks.
know
Wow,
it.
that was
Yeah.
so clickbaity, wasn't it? TED speakers can't,
Sorry.
TED organizers can't stand this guy. Um,
Mm.
it's literally you apply. I didn't even know that. You can like Google TEDx talks in your state, and then you can click the local affiliate, and then you fill out an application. You like submit an application. You're like, here's my idea. Here's what I want to talk about. And by the way, I have been denied. I have turned in applications. I don't even know how many applications I've turned in where they never even contacted me back. Like I wrote
Yeah.
up this whole outline. I'm like, here's my idea. I had so much hope. The deadline submission is this date. They're going to let speakers know by this date. Never heard
They
back.
don't let you know.
So
Yeah, I've
this
done that.
it's not like I just applied and then boom and then now I'm a TED speaker. Like I applied the first time I applied and got in. The first time was with an application. The second
Oh, that's
time
awesome.
a
Yeah.
speaker dropped out of a TED event, and then the organizer contacted me and was like, "Will you do another one?" And I had way less time to prepare for the second one. Like the
Mhm.
first time I had like 6 months to prepare and I did like a million drafts. The second time I
Mhm.
mean it was like 6 weeks or something. And I also run a company full time. So I was like, how the heck am I going to create
Yeah.
time to write this? So it both were very challenging in their own ways, but I never want to
Mhm.
like make it sound like, oh, Ted saw a video of me online. No, my first TED talk was me filling out an application on a website just like you apply for a job. No rocket science, no, like you can go do that today.
How many times did you fill out that application before you got that first yes?
It was my first time filling it out for that location.
Okay. Okay, for the
But I don't
elocution.
know, like there are all sorts of different affiliates. So
Mhm.
I actually don't know how many. Probably not too many,
Was it
but
like 5?
definitely more times than I've done talks. Like
Mhm.
I I think I think when I found out that you could apply, I was like, no, really? Like I thought you had to be asked or you had to know somebody. And then I was talking to this guy who had done a TED talk before and he's like, Google it, dude. And I Google it and it's like, sure enough, there's applications.
Look at
I'm like,
that.
son of a gun. I don't know how I thought it happened, but it wasn't this. So I always encourage people like try, and even in your application process, it'll teach you something about what you want to share. Like it'll
Mhm.
help you format your idea in a way that's shareable. So even that experience is good.
Okay, really quick, just because I have to ask, which TED Talk was the one first where you had 6 months, and which was the second? Was it the one with the I'm potentially going to die in an airplane?
That
Was
was
that
the
the second
second
or the
one.
first?
Yeah.
That was okay. Everybody, you got to go listen to Johnny's TED Talks. Both of them are very good. That second one, though, what you did when you were talking about bring them with you emotionally, I'm like, oh yeah, you did that. Because I was sitting here the other night watching that, and I'm like, oh my god.
Dude, I
you
had,
know,
yeah, my
yeah.
girlfriend at the time was like, I don't like that one because it was so stressful for her to hear
It is
about.
stressful, and you do a good job bringing us along and bringing us through, and like I'm in the seat right next to you, like, all right, I surrender my life over. When you said okie dokie, I laughed out loud too. And so yes, well done everybody. Listen, masterclass right there.
I appreciate that.
That's awesome. So we've got only a few minutes left here. How have you been received? Like, what's happened since? And any last reflections or advice you would share with those who want to do what you're doing today?
Yeah, two things immediately come to mind. The first is this is going to sound like a Disney Channel lesson, but be yourself, be like 100% yourself. I remember when I grew up touring in a metal band. That's like my whole culture is like metal and hardcore. And um, I'm covered in tattoos. And I remember I want to get my throat tattooed like my whole life. And so um, I called my speaking agent and I was like, hey, I'm going to get my throat tattooed. Like, is this going to make your job harder? Or I said, is this going to make your job hard? And he goes, Johnny, look at you. Like my job is already hard. Like how am I supposed to sell like at the time I was like 30, and he's like, how am I supposed to sell like a 30, you're the youngest speaker on the agency, you're covered in tattoos, you play in a death metal band, like you got a lot of things that I'm trying to convince a Fortune 100 company are selling points. And he's like, let me tell you this, it's not going to make my job any harder than it already is. And then he said, in fact, the people who won't book you once you get your throat tattooed already won't book you now because your hands are done, because you're, whatever. So he's like, dude, it's your body. Like, do what you want. I don't think it's going to affect. I don't think it's going to affect things nearly as much as you think. And I remember when I first started speaking, I thought I shouldn't wear a t-shirt and jeans. I have to cover my tattoos. I have to not say dude. And I was so in my head about how I thought I decided that people wouldn't like me before I even met them.
Ah,
And I had to get out of that pattern and think, if I'm 100% myself on stage and off, uh here's what I believe. People will, let's say 90% of the world won't like you for some reason. Either you're too tall or your hair's too short or you have too thick of an accent or whatever. Like 90% of people just, you won't be their cup of tea. 10% of people are like, yeah, that's a good speaker, it's a good message. You have to make peace with, if 90% of people you're going to be to this or to that for most people, then you might as well be yourself, because there are people who, like me, younger me, I contorted I bought a suit jacket to speak at a conference. Catherine, do I look like a person
mm,
who wears a suit jacket?
no, but
So I
I'd love to
go,
see that picture.
and it did not fit. It was huge on me. Like I had no, I
Oh,
went to J.C. Penney. I bought the cheapest one I could find,
oh,
and I
JC
wore it.
Penney's. Oh yeah.
And
Hmm.
I was so uncomfortable, and it was like I was so in my head, and I know I was like, the same amount of people didn't like me, only I was really uncomfortable. and not being myself. So it's like, I just think that it's a lie that if you pretend, more people will like you. I think different people will like you. But I think all in
Well, I
all,
think
go ahead.
you in a J.C. Penney suit, you're not giving those of us who will love you the chance to really get to love you, you
Yep.
know? Because we're going to be impacted by the real you rather than the suit J.C. Penney on you.
Yeah,
That
man.
version.
I
Yeah,
always
I
I
love
always
that.
encourage people to if you can skip the years where you're trying to be the more acceptable, palatable version of yourself. And a lot of times it's really superficial stuff, Catherine. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
people won't like that I dress this way, or people won't like, I know I keep bringing up like, oh, my accent, but I know people who are like, I know somebody bilingual who was like, oh, I don't want to do that because my accent is too thick. And I'm just like,
Mm.
oh man, it's so sad that like it's they're standing in their own way. And I've done that too. I said, oh,
Oh, God. Who
people
hasn't?
won't like how I look, how I talk, or how I look. And I just always tell people like, dude, if you can skip those years where you're like trying to water yourself down for the sake of other people, not only do I believe you will have a more successful, like mission, like you will impact more people in more positive ways, but also you'll have a way better time doing it because you won't have to uh, shoulder the burden of wearing this costume.
Yes. And on that note, I'm going to say mic drop. That was good. So, everyone, I hope that you got as much from this conversation as I did. And I'm sitting here with my head spinning a little bit because it's so true. Stop wearing the costume. And thank you for sharing that and all the small ways that you've been resilient enough to continue sharing your message and being yourself. It's very inspiring. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Cool. Everyone, thank you for listening and tune in for next time.
Thank you for listening to Breaking Through the Noise. You can follow us on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. And drop a comment on topics you want to hear about in future episodes. We'd love to hear that. Thanks again for tuning in. Till next time.